The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Good evening and welcome to my State of Mind. I am Dan Yorke. Well, it's been a transition week, and finally we have a brand new president of the United States. That, we'll get a take on it from our political scientist, Joe Cammarano from Providence College, both the exit for Donald Trump and the intro to Joe Biden coming up a little bit later on in the broadcast. But a bulk of our show tonight is going to be focused on this controversy where Governor Raimondo is leaving and has put us on notice that she is going to pursue the confirmation as Secretary of Commerce working for the Biden administration and a cabinet member. I think there's a source of pride for Rhode Island for this move, but Gina Morano's legacy is teetering right now. At least the Dear John letter that she's written us is leaving us quite empty because, as we know, she has had emergency authority here since March and has dominated the airwaves with both her presentations, some say lectures, and her Q&As with the press. Well, since the Biden administration's put a leash on her, obviously, to keep it quiet and disciplined in order to get a confirmation done, she's pulled out. And, last week and a half ago, she said her final piece on the stage at her vaccine briefing and has set up a new format. She has not answered any questions. And in fact, in and out of that event, she refused to answer the questions from folks she knows intimately in the press. Here's what that video looked like coming in and leaving.
Hey, Gov.
Hi, Gov.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, but I'm late for my 1 o'clock press.
Can you stop and talk to us for a second?
No,
have you been told not to, Governor, by the Biden administration?
Seriously, that looks like the average criminal perp walk, coming out of the court. Can we ask you questions about the trial? Sorry, can't answer any questions. And diving into the car. It's just bad form, and it's bad constituent service. And organizations that are charged with reporting to you are squawking about it loudly. The New England First Amendment Coalition has sent a letter. They're very unhappy about this and asking for a change. The Rhode Island Broadcasters Association, to which this television station and the radio station that I work on every day, WPRO, belong, also penned off a letter. And then the Rhode Island Press Association, the working journalists here in the state, have also done the same. They're miffed. I'm not sure what their leverage is. And tonight we shall talk about it. So let's get into it. So joining us at the top is PC political scientist Joe Cammarano, who is one of my go-to guys, as you know, on all things national politics. And James Bessette from the Providence Business News. He is the editor there, but in this context, more importantly, the president of the Rhode Island Press Association. Thank you both for joining me. Appreciate it very much. Very important week, no doubt about it. I'm going to start with James in response to this notion that the three organizations, the Rhode Island Press Association, the Rhode Island Broadcast Association, and the New England First Amendment Coalition have really stepped up and expressed their dissatisfaction with what's happening here. James, talk to me about what your major issue is regarding the governor's decision not to interact with the press.
Rhode Island is still among the worst in the world, not just the U.S., the world, when it comes to being hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. And since March of 2020, we've been living literally under executive order. The governor, according to the Rhode Island Constitution, as I noted in the letter, has the executive power to take over anything if it's an emergency situation. And right now, Rhode Island's in a state of emergency. It's literally a life or death situation, mainly with either it's individually, emotionally, physically, with a health situation, economically. I mean, Rhode Island's economy, from what has been reported on the Providence Business News side, when we interviewed a Moody's representative. Rhode Island could take twice as long to recover from this than the rest of the country. And that's par for the course, unfortunately, for Rhode Island. So long story short, we need transparency from the top elected officials, and we don't accept the fact that she is being silent on anything, not answering any questions. The way the pandemic has worked, you don't know how things are going to change on an hour by hour or day by day basis.
This clearly is in response to some control issue that formerly the transition team and now the administration has on making sure this nomination gets through for her cabinet position as the Secretary of Commerce. You put out a press release last week on this. You then wrote a letter along with the other two organizations. And interesting, in bold type, you asked the question. You say, with the pandemic and the pandemic planning it possible in the most critical juncture, our ask is, will you continue to follow the format of the press conference, staying at the podium to address questions in regard to the pandemic issues? Do you feel like that's the best you can do, meaning to ask the question?
On the Press Association side, we were definitely a little bit more firm. We were saying that we demand to have our questions to be answered. And we still feel that way right now. I think right now that is the first approach to see what kind of response that we may receive from the governor's office. Obviously, we're still going to be in communication with not just my members of the board with the Press Association, but certainly the New England First Amendment Coalition is looking at this. The New England Newspaper and Press Association, who co-signed with NEFAC's letter, is also looking at this closely. And obviously the Broadcasters Association is quite interested in this sort of thing as well, because they wouldn't have sent the letter if they weren't otherwise.
And they let me just jump in there, because they all have while all the interests are the same here, the position and the tactic can be different. The Rhode Island Broadcasters Association has the plug, at least. The journalists,
Sure.
work industry, and some for the electronic business, some not. But the broadcasters could simply say, hey, look, if it's not important to you, it's not important to us. Or we can carry this in social media or online. We don't have to block off soap operas and midday talk shows in order to be able to get this thing done. And that's a decision they can make. We'll see whether or not they want to get tough on this. Joe, you're listening into this. What's your perspective?
So in principle, I think transparent government is really important. And so in general, I think this position is a correct one. But I'm wondering what questions aren't being asked and answered that were being asked and answered. And I also wonder, whether the informal approach that the governor took to being in command now requires by law or any other policy that she answer these questions if somebody else is doing it. So if we're getting the information from the executive branch, what's the problem? I got to tell you,
yeah.
vetting to be a cabinet secretary, particularly Department of Commerce, where she has a steep learning curve. It's a data agency. She's got to learn a lot of stuff. She may not have the time to do what she's been doing. And the reality is, she doesn't have to by law.
Well, I'll let James respond to that. I got my own answer, but let me have my guests and the protagonists in this particular case answer the question.
Right. So while I do understand that she has the quote unquote right to remain silent, but again, when it comes to addressing policies, yes.
Wait, whoa. I take offense to the right to remain silent. That's a criminal term used in criminal law. This has nothing to do with that. And the question isn't whether she's silent. The question is the governor's office silent? And I think that's an important distinction.
Well, we've repeatedly asked the governor, will she be answering questions for us? And we've gotten literally the same copy and paste answer that we got for the last week.
What were you getting? What were we getting that we're not getting now?
Well, the question is right now is how restrictions could be eased on either local businesses or, just simple way of life, or just what are just some things that are going to be allowed, that could be allowed now or disallowed now because of what's going on with the pandemic. Obviously, some of the numbers with the pandemic have greatly improved. When it comes to percent positive rates, over the last few days, it's been at about the 5% range, and that is one of the barometers that the Rhode Island Department of Health has set to where restrictions could be eased or increased. And right now, all of a sudden, yesterday, out of the blue, the news came out that the Rhode Island, on a very small sense, the Rhode Island Interscholastic League announced that, hey, we're going to have winter sports starting up on Friday. She's the one that's been at the forefront saying what can happen and what cannot happen. And then all of a sudden, just completely out of the blue, from sources from the Interscholastic League saying, yep, we're going to be allowed sports.
And let me jump in here. James is correct on that, Joe, and there's only a dozen more things. I mean, how she's dealing with small business funding issues. They're all, you name it. There's a lot of stuff. She's been taking whacks at the school systems. In her last
Oh God,
press conference, she hit Pawtucket again for not putting the kids in. The point is that she has because she took control early and really has become a de facto one-person government. There are probably a dozen key areas, even COVID related, that she has been managing and for which there is no person to respond to the questions. And there's other stuff governmentally. And then there's a transition concept here, and she's not lended any and she has not responded to any questions regarding that. So, Joe, there's a huge void that James and his peers are frustrated over on behalf of the constituents.
But let me just say, I agree completely that information should be conveyed. It need not be conveyed by the governor. And so the real problem isn't that the governor isn't talking. The real problem is the governor hasn't delegated or assigned someone else to do it.
Well, I don't know how you have your cake and eat it too. I don't know how.
Lieutenant governor, isn't the lieutenant governor going to take over?
Well,
why doesn't he start doing it?
Well, you raise a good question, but I'm sure James would concur. We've got this strange space between them. We don't have a November election, January inauguration fixed schedule and tradition and custom to the transition. We have I'm going when I get confirmed, and I'm not sure when that's going to be. It could be February 5th. It could be April 25th, and we don't know.
But criticize her for that, not for being silent.
Well, here's the point. There are two things really quickly that I think are important in this. Number one, the Press Association et al. Are rightly concerned. I don't know whether they have any leverage. I mean, they can huff and puff and blow the house down. She is clearly not wanting to respond. I think playing hardball and turning the key off might encourage her to respond. Past that, I think the press ought to, on their editorial side, ought to be doing what I'm talking about, and that is set a fixed date, like the state Republicans have asked, to get out of Dodge, whether you're nominated or not. Whether you're confirmed or not, and just like so many other governors have done out of respect for their constituents. Joe, your thought on that?
Whoa. Which governors and when?
Well, Paul Cellucci, there's a half a dozen. I don't have the list, but Paul Cellucci did so when he was nominated and moved along. So, God rest his soul, one of the most terrific governors New England's ever had, I think, in Massachusetts. So, this notion that you want to thread the needle. I mean, once you're here and here, gone, you're gone. So she's gone. There's no reason why she can't go ahead and do that.
And my criticism really is that she should have handed this over to McKee already. And I agree with that.
I concur.
Well, I concur. James, last thought as to what the media.
That's the problem.
All right, last thought as to what the media types can do here.
Yeah. Well, right now, obviously, we're encouraging as many news outlets as possible to try to make this as public as possible, whether on the newspaper side to put together editorials. I know Providence Business News will have some form of an editorial on this in its print issue on Friday. I'm hoping to reconvene with NEFAC, NEMPA, the broadcasters, and kind of say, all right, our original approach did not work. We need to try to step things up a little bit. What should we possibly do?
Yeah,
well, I have a recommendation. Don't fall into the trap of being stereotyped as a Gina basher. Make this about need to know information, not about the governor.
We'll leave it there. James, appreciate it. James Bessette from the Providence Business News, and in this context, the president of the Rhode Island Press Association. We'll continue with with Joe Cammarano on issues. This small story like the inauguration of when we come back. James, thank you, appreciate it. We'll be
Thanks.
back on our State of Mind. Stay with us. And so President Trump flew to Mar-a-Lago, but he didn't go before having his own party. And Joe, I'll tell you, one of the things that most struck me about that very strange morning self-send-off was this notion that he suggested, please remember me. There's a little blasphemy involved in it almost. There was, please remember me, when this, please, tell me, what was your gut check take about that goodbye?
This is somebody who's still processing his loss. This is not somebody who has ever accepted loss, and he still hasn't done it. And so I think what we're seeing is his emotions playing out in his words.
The crowd was small. The family was there. Air Force One was behind him. A 21-gun salute. Look, he spent the taxpayer money sending himself off. He didn't show up for the inauguration. Credit Mike Pence for. It's amazing that the bar is so low right now that you have to credit Mike Pence for doing what he was supposed to do. But in that context, not easy, right? He didn't show up to the president's send off, and he respected an institutional transition. And for that, I think we have to thank him.
I agree. I think Mike Pence is one of the profiles in courage at the end of this administration. And, him going to the inauguration, I think, was a courageous thing to do for him and his political future, if he has one. And so I think kudos are in order for him, even if he took 4 years for him to do that. Yeah.
So the three presidents who were there, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Joe Biden referred to them. They took part in this special that ran on all the networks. Ironically, all the networks and the cable networks ran that thing last night as inauguration coverage. And I know it's virtual, so it feels like just one big infomercial. But it is what it is. Other than Fox News, which did not do so.
You're talking about Hunter Biden's laptop.
And reportedly get into Hunter Biden's laptop. If that doesn't define where the divided media is in this country, servicing the divided constituency in this country, I don't know what does.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the three former presidents who spoke during the event last night. I have to say that it was very clear that for all three of them, they were deeply worried about what has happened, and they are deeply concerned. And so the show of unification, which is the theme, and I think a genuine theme of the Biden first week at least, is, because we really came close to having a system topple. And even Roy Blunt, the Republican senator who was co-host of the inauguration, said the same exact thing. So there are a lot of shaken public officials in Washington.
Yeah, but Roy Blunt was very hesitant to even bring any responsibility for January 6th insurrection on the president. So, but he is chair of the transition effort. So it was quite the scene. When we come back, we'll talk specifically about our new president, what he had to say, and where we go from here with Joe Cammarano. Stay with us. Strange pomp and circumstance, COVID, security, Washington being a fortress. We're used to empty seats. If you watched any ball games over this pandemic, we're kind of used to empty seats, so it wasn't as shocking, Joe, right? For the most part.
Yeah, I think it wasn't as shocking, and in some ways, it was easier to watch because there weren't pans to the crowds and all the people doing all those things, and so it was really a focused event.
Yeah, I thought the young poet at the end was just incredible. I thought I'm a Lady Gaga fan. I guess Joe Biden is too. So I thought her rendition was beautiful. J-Lo is J-Lo. It's, super talent. So quite the exercise. But this unity conversation is something that every president talks about. It's a goal, probably not completely accomplishable. But I said yesterday on the radio, real quick, that right now unity, the bar for unity is put down your weapons and wear a mask. I mean, that's where it kind of starts, and then maybe that's where it only has to be. You tell me what you think, real quick, on this.
Well, I think we're seeing some pretty quick indicators that there might be some sort of cross-party cooperation. The Senate, which had been logjammed even on some of these early appointments, have loosened up, and so they've gotten those through. And the reality is, the 25 or so executive orders and memos that are going to be done by the end of today reverses a lot of public policy that Donald Trump implemented in 4 years. And that might end the unity, because the climate change declaration, immigration, the wall, all of those things are going to start creating agitation with Congress.
It's going to be hard to be talking about unity while you're impeaching or while you're trying to convict the president. I only had 30 seconds on this.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I think impeachment trial is not that important, because after seeing Trump yesterday, I don't think Trump has much of a future in politics.
I don't know. That base is still pretty loyal.
Yeah, but the base is shrunken, and it's never going to be a majority.
And a move to start a third party, which is rumored, that's only going to help the Democrats, right?
Yeah, it'll basically ensure the Democrat gets elected in 2024.
All right. Well, we'll have a lot more time to wring our hands over this with our friend Joe Cammarano, and we'll stay in touch with this silent treatment that Governor Raimondo is giving the press. It certainly is compelling. Of course, on the radio, weekdays 3 to 6 on WPRO, and here. Final word when we come back. Stay with us. Gina Raimondo better delegate a spokesperson to answer questions outside acute health issues, or fix a very short and hard date to transition to Dan McKee. Otherwise, she will leave a little stinky legacy on her way out. And that would be a shame for all of us. We'll talk to you on the radio, weekdays 3 to 6 on WPRO. I'm back here next weekend. Good night.